What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
I love that.
I do too.
Oh,
So welcome everyone. Oh, Ethel and Rhonda love that too.
it's
Welcome
adorable.
everyone.
Just like us.
Just adorable, just like us, yes. So good afternoon and welcome and happy November 3rd to all of you. My name's Richard Haddon and we are the Culture Club. We're 75% of the Culture Club and we'll introduce each other in just a moment. I am Richard Haddon and I think I said that already, so I am redundant, but I'm Richard Haddon and I'm an author, speaker. I'm an author and speaker, and at this moment a frequent flyer because I'm joining you from the conference center at the Minneapolis airport, and so I'm here for just a little bit. I am actually going to have to sneak out a little bit early, but I'm glad to be able to start on this. And to my right, I don't know whatever else we have, Michael Kerr. Michael.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, coming to you from beautiful Canmore, Alberta, in the spectacular Canadian Rockies. As always, it's a pleasure to be here. My most recent book is right over my shoulder, The Jerk-Free Workplace. Just a little plug there for my book.
That leaves Jeff Tobe.
I guess that would leave me. First of all, I think, Richard, you need to clean your glasses because you said Ethel and Rhonda when her name, it's like her last name. Sorry, Rhonda. We know you too. You're not with Ethel. But anyway, I'm Jeff Tobe, coming to you from beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are missing the other 1/4 of what we call the Culture Club. Sorry to say Sanjay was under the weather, but I think we got it, guys.
Yeah, I think we can manage that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Our topic today, before we start on our topic, let me mention one thing. We have a new feature that we're offering, and that is that the Culture Club, the four of us, can join your next corporate event. So the next time you have an event, and now Michael has turned into me, but the next time you have an event, we would love to be able to join you. The four of us can join you virtually for that event. And so if you are interested in learning more about that, just email any of us, jeff@jefftobe.com, mike@mikekerr.com, sanjay@sanjaynath.com, or richard@contentedcows.com. So,
by the way, Richard, we will feature one of their executives, if not the CEO, and
yes,
have them as a guest host.
Well, we'll craft a program that works exactly for your organization, and when it will be done specifically customized for your organization and your culture. All right. So, speaking of culture, what we thought we would do today was just kind of broach the subject that sometimes organizations can be in a bad mood. We've used a lot of different words as the three of us and even Sanjay have been discussing this. But, from time to time, because organizations their culture has been likened to a person's personality, then it kind of follows and it makes sense that if people can go through bad moods, can go through a rough patch, that an organization can go through a bad mood. And so we want to talk today about what happens when your organization finds itself in a funk. And I pronounce that very clearly. Find yourself in a funk. We also have used the word, what, guys? Languishing.
Losing their mojo. I hear that from clients all the time, right? And it's we're not just talking about COVID and what's been going on recently. This happens all the time in life cycles of cultures, right? Where I think things just get kind of stagnant and you're in that kind of meh zone.
By the way, Richard, is that being funked up?
Something like that, yes. Yes. And so, if you think about it also, an organization is nothing more than a collection of humans. And so if you have a critical mass of the people in that organization also kind of in a down mood, that's going to reflect in the mood of the company, of the organization. And so, as we look at the things, and this is not just about COVID, but hey, let's face it, because of what's happened over the last 20 months or so, a lot of organizations have been under a lot of stress, and it's been difficult for some of them to recover. But in some of the reading that I've done, they talk about some of the things that cause an organization, or really the people in an organization, to get into that kind of a mood. And some of those things that can create that situation are responsibility without authority, Another one is too much work and too little time. Another one very closely related to that is too much work and too few people. And I think that's where a lot of us see ourselves right now. An environment of ongoing criticism, think about that. And again, I'm kind of giving this list so that people in our audience can think, does this describe what's happening or has happened in our organization? Another is just senior leaders being completely detached from kind of reality. They're kind of doing their own thing, and the people on the ground, on the front lines are seeing things a little bit differently than what's going on.
Yeah, Richard, can I had the honor yesterday of working with a very large pharma company who will remain nameless, except they're the only ones whose name starts with a P and an F. But anyway, I was working with them, and I was working with senior leadership, and it was interesting because their VP, kind of opened the meeting for the day, and his whole thing was that as senior leaders, you are absolutely detached from your people, and we need to change that. Mm-hmm. And I think that they felt, I don't think they voiced it, but I shared with you guys before we went live that they called it cultural fatigue, which I kind of like. The culture is just getting tired. They've obviously gone through a lot of changes in the last 2 years as a pharma company. But I think that last thing can't be underemphasized. And that is that, senior leaders are sometimes detached from the real issues that the frontline people are facing.
Yeah.
For sure. I love what Melissa said in the chat box too, because I think that's very true too. Mojo sometimes gets lost after a huge project is ended. Right? You're on this high, everybody's working hard, you've got a goal, you've got this purpose, and then it's kind of, the aftermath can be a little bit kind of blah feeling, right?
Yeah. And I think also, we know that people can kind of muster up some heroism and for a period of time, but a lot of the research shows that most of us have about a 3 to 6 month shelf life on that. So when things like COVID, or when things like the organization, even going back to the global financial crisis of a number of years ago, when something like that goes on for a long time, people say, oh, okay, we can go ahead and, we'll rally the forces and everything. Fine for 3 to 6 months. After that, I think it's what you said, Jeff, in terms of fatigue. We just get fatigued from it. Right. And then people say, what's next? What's not moving forward? I think most of us are programmed to always be kind of moving forward, looking for something, the next best thing, that things are going to get better, going to get better, going to get better. And when things don't do that within what we, decide is a reasonable period of time, 3 to 6 months, maybe, then it gets really tough. So, what can organizations do? What can leaders do?
Well, Mark's already jumped to the answer. We can stop the whole thing. And he says, just adopt the attributes of a big project into day-to-day work. Yes, but I kind of feel like yes, but it's a great thing. It's a great attitude, but how do you drive that through the organization? Well, that's good personally. That's a great thing to think about personally, but how do you drive that through all the way through an organization?
Well, I'm wondering too, because I'm intrigued by this idea of kind of the big project letdown. In most organizations, don't people though enjoy a little bit of a respite, a little time after that to kind of relax and to go at a little bit slower pace?
It's funny you say that. You guys know that one of my biggest markets is project managers. And I've done work all over the world with project management, which I know a lot of our audience are project managers as well. And I don't see it. I don't see a project ending. Typically what happens, they're getting near the end, so they throw another project on them. And now they're overlapping for a while. So yes, they still get tired, but I don't think they have the time just to sit back and relax after.
I think it's so important though, Jeff, too, when you're finished a big project, finished a change initiative, whatever you're working on, that you do take the time to celebrate that success. It's an important milestone, and boy, you better make sure you celebrate like never before.
I think that's different than what Richard's talking about. That's like taking some time, some downtime. Absolutely going to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, just as we're talking here, just thoughts that are occurring to me, because none of this is planned, but, I talk a lot about people having a need to feel a sense of purpose in their work. People need to be able to connect what they're doing with the customer and all that. People need to believe that what they are doing is important. And the moment that we entertain the notion that we don't really have anything very important to do anymore, we can't possibly be engaged. And I'm wondering if after a project, if there's always been this real sense of being connected to some impact and something super important, and now we don't. So now what? And so I'm wondering, if it's a good idea that even in those gaps between projects, we make sure that people are connected to a sense of purpose in what they do at work.
Yeah, Richard, it is so critical. I think a sense of purpose and a sense of progress are two of the biggest indicators of happiness at work, of well-being at work. We know there's so much research that correlates a sense of progress in your day-to-day job with a feeling of happiness and contentment and well-being in your job. And that ties into purpose too, right? I think they feed off each other. And we know from so much research around the great resignation that everyone's talking about, that a sense of purpose is largely driving that. It is one of the top things that is causing people to look for greener pastures, sometimes even at lower wages, if they can move into a position, into a job, into a company where they feel they can make a greater impact, where they feel they are listened to, respected more, and that they can contribute meaningfully. That is so important these days.
Yeah. And so what is this progress of which you speak? Is it the same thing that we south of the border refer to as progress? Because if it is, then I think it's
we refer to it progress.
Oh yeah, progress. I think you're right, and that kind of gets to one of the points I wanted to bring up, and that is that when there's a lot of stress in the organization, one thing that tends to happen is that regular career progression is kind of put on hold, and so people don't feel that sense of progress even in their own careers. And certainly over the last 20 months, a lot of organizations have said, we're just not doing anything right now until it's over, until we can kind of get back on our footing. And that has created a sense with a lot of people of career stagnation. Mm-hmm. And then I think that feeds into what you said a moment ago. Now they are looking for greener pastures where they might be able to advance their career.
Yeah, yesterday, one of the senior managers in the same meeting, I apologize, I keep going back to that, it's fresh on my mind.
You've only ever done one meeting, I know, yeah.
Yeah, they actually did breakouts, and the topic was, what can we do to get our people more excited about coming to work every morning? And I thought that was, and the answers were great. I do want to go to the chat box really quickly because Melissa, you opened a can of worms, because I could see Mike, I could just see him shivering. He's so excited about your question, but we've covered it so much in this, and that of course is how do you celebrate in virtual? But the second question is, how do you force downtime after a project? Ability to come to work, but not work on a new big project. So I think we kind of covered that, right? It's not really downtime as much as it's celebrating.
Yeah.
Mike, do you want 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
Well, I've done this so many times, but it's your forte too. How to celebrate.
Yeah, of course, we all have to get creative when we're celebrating and recognizing people and doing all that good stuff virtually and remotely. But there are so many things we can do. In fact, if you go to my website, I have a checklist of 100 and something odd ideas to engage with virtual employees in a fun way, even if it's just fun meeting icebreakers. But there's so many things you can still do virtually. Don't use that as an excuse. In fact, you have to be even more intentional. Make sure you do things like mail things out to people. I've been on a number of meetings with a fellow here in Canada who does wine and cheese tasting as this celebration event with clients. And I come in with some humor stuff and culture stuff. And there's so many things like that we can still do, even though everybody is apart. There's so many great social events we can do virtually, trivia game nights. There's tons of things we can do.
Absolutely. They could bring in a professional speaker too, who's
here. There you go.
Yeah. Or 3 or 4. Yeah.
Just saying. So, I want to just reiterate what Frederick's saying. In many, if not most organizations feeling malaise, there are still individuals who carry a positive energy and remain inspired. And he's basically saying we need to surround ourselves with those people. you know, to give them a platform to share their why and to connect with those who might be struggling. That's so true. I think that's
brilliant,
key, right? And I think
and turn those people into your culture.
People.
Sorry, Jeff.
I was just saying, as leaders, you need to identify those people and actually, I hate to use the word use them, but use those attributes to motivate the rest of the workforce.
Leverage them, turn them into your culture champions, your culture stars, get them involved in things, make them the leaders. And I hate to say it, but sometimes, because I get the question all the time, what do you do about the fun suckers? You know, the seagulls crapping all over everything. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just ignore those seagulls, because we spend way too much energy and focus.
Giving them an audience,
Giving them an audience on the 10% of people that are sucking the fun out of the joint, instead of focusing on the people that do want to move forward in positive, creative ways.
Yeah. So what do you do if you're a leader in an organization and two things. What if you do if you're a leader in the organization and your organization is kind of going through a funk, a malaise, and you personally, as the leader, feel the same way? You feel kind of down in the dumps. You know, you're fatigued. You've been dealing with problems right and left and not having as much success as you want. And, you know, CEOs are people too. Some of them are. And what do you do when you're feeling that way? That's the first question. And then we'll move to another question later. But yeah, suppose you're the CEO. Suppose you're the manager of the team. Suppose you're the vice president of the department or the whatever. And you personally are having a little bit of difficulty keeping your spirits elevated.
You know, I think renewing focus would be one thing. You know, most organizations, I don't care if they're government or they're private industry, they have a focus on certain services they offer or products that they offer. And sometimes what I've seen is just renewing that focus on a different service, you know, and I'm not talking marketing wise, I'm just talking to just kind of freshen up the workplace, kind of double down on those business areas that just shifting your focus off of one to the other.
Okay. Yeah. And then with that likely would come some improved progress and some, improved results in that area. And that would help to lift things. I'm just looking for little ideas. I don't think there's anything that's going to absolutely turn the organization around, especially if it's situational, if it's because of situations, whether it's external or internal. I think those situations do need to improve before the entire way the organization feels is going to get better. But we've got to be able to treat it. And, you know, how can we, you know, like you said, get up and come in the morning? What makes us excited to do that?
And I think part of that, too, is identifying the source, right? Identifying the root. And at an individual level, starting there, because it could be different for so many reasons you could be feeling this way, right? It could be work overload. It could be what you're focusing on. It could be related to your sleep, for goodness sakes, your health and mental health practices. So simple things like shifting your intention and writing down some daily intentions. I know a lot of CEOs and senior leaders who really embrace that as a way of focusing more, back to Jeff's comment, on things they want to work on and be more intentional about. But the key is to check in back at the end of the day. I think setting new learning goals sometimes is a great strategy to get someone out of a funk. And I've seen this time and time again with executives that I've coached, people that I've worked with, where they get really excited, they get really jazzed about learning new things related to leadership, related to their culture or their area of expertise. And that's enough sometimes just to re-inspire them, reignite them.
Yeah. David said, you know, David in the chat box said that most of his clients have formed teams or committees. And that's it, just a fun committee, a connections committee, whatever that is.
A re-energizing committee.
Yeah. I just want to, we've got a lot of comments, so I know you can all read them, but I'd like to discuss some of them. You know, write down what you're grateful for, Lisa says.
Wow,
You know, Linda says, admit it, tell your folks you understand. So she's talking about transparency, right?
Yes, exactly.
Senior leadership, it's about being transparent. You may also want to find a trusted partner to help you. I got a comment on that. I'm working with a hospital, Richard, that you know, in Louisiana. And they've resorted to what they're calling, I can't remember the formal name, but it was buddy something. And they literally buddy people up. And because all through the pandemic, they started this almost 2 years ago. And I love it. And so it's somebody you can go to You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You may not even know them at the beginning, but they become so close, a lot of these buddies. I thought was really interesting. So thank you for that, because Frederick, because that's what you're talking about. Finding
on that note, Jeff, if I can interject there, one thing that I've been suggesting to clients that are in very much still a hybrid situation is to have a buddy system with somebody who's physically at your workspace, back at your office, with somebody working remote. And that's worked really well for some of my clients.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, folks, I tell you what, I'm going to leave you in the wonderfully capable hands of Jeff and Mike, and I'm going to go catch my flight from Minneapolis to Atlanta so that I can get from Atlanta to Jacksonville a little bit later today. So it's been great to be here with you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Richard.
No more than I'm going to miss you.
But I just want to say that I get the opportunity to give Richard a hug on Sunday.
That's right.
I will see him in person, so I'm so excited.
On Sunday, Jeff and I will be reunited. Yeah, so
and anyway, it feels so
thanks
good.
To everyone. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye, Richard. Bye. Thank you. Safe travels.
Bye. Thanks.
Elaine says, "Bring your Braves hat to Atlanta." I like that. So, all right.
Oh, I miss Richard already.
Yeah. And now they're stuck with us, and he was the host. What do we do?
I know. I'm feeling this malaise has just kind of taken over me.
And Sanjay was
so Jeff, I was going to bring up this comment too, because this so often I was speaking to a group of CEOs a few weeks ago, and often when I'm talking to senior leaders in an organization, this topic comes up where people get talking about things in their culture, and very often I hear the line, "Hey, Joe, do you remember we used to do that? We used to do that, and it was a lot of fun. Why don't we do that anymore?" So, you know, part of this discussion too always brings me back to that thought, that notion that sometimes we let things go. We're not consistent with things we used to do, and so sometimes talking to your veterans, digging back into the oldie files for what you used to do and bringing back some of those traditions or rituals or things you did to celebrate.
That's a great segue, because Jason said that they've incorporated a suggestion box. I mean, remember suggestion boxes? What a great idea. But that's something like you're talking about, you know, something that worked. It was old. Then we tried to do electronic, digital, and everything else, but nothing works better than just putting a piece of paper in that suggestion box.
As long as, and we've talked about this many, many times here, there isn't a paper shredder on the other side of the suggestion box, which a lot of people have that feeling. There's nothing worse. I think a suggestion box can backfire, frankly, if it's just done for window dressing reasons, and people keep suggesting, and nobody ever hears back anything, right? So you've got to make sure it's just one tool, and that you're using it to engage in a real two-way conversation with everyone.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I say about them also, just FYI, is it's not just good enough. Like, if you review it and you decide you don't want to do it, be transparent. Tell people why you didn't do it. You know,
you've got to get back to people. Yeah. So this idea, Jeff, too, I before I forget it, I don't want to lose this. Very simple thing, and again, we've talked about this. I think that can help in these situations too. If you're looking for a framework for conversation with your employees, with your leadership team, is the old wheel of change formula, and ask those questions and get some consensus with your team. What is one thing we need to start doing that will help us get out of this malaise period? One is one thing we all need to commit to. We all need to commit to stop doing. What is one thing we need to learn to live with? And what is one thing we need to just keep doing? And that references back to my notion about how, you know, we used to do this, but we got kind of inconsistent. So what is one thing we just need to remember? We do it, but we kind of half-ass it sometimes, or we don't do it as consistently as we should. So what do we need to remember to do consistently? So those 4 questions are great, I think, at just providing a bit of a simple framework to get people thinking about this.
I love that. And while I'm talking about this next point, maybe you can write the 4 questions in the chat.
I could.
Because I wanted to suggest something that another one of my clients did, which I thought was incredible. Same thing, and it was, they didn't define it as malaise, but people just weren't stepping up to the plate. So they had a customer panel. And so they brought in 4 or 5 of their customers. And it was an entire company-wide forum. And they interviewed the customers. What do you like about us? Not like a focus group, but the entire company heard and was able to ask questions. And it was incredible. It was supposed to last, I think, just 45 minutes. And they went an hour and a half and had to cut it off because people were asking so many questions of the customer. And so who is your customer? Think about that. And maybe that's a way to revitalize the organization as well.
Well, on that note, Jeff, too, I think that circles us back to this notion of purpose. I think when we reconnect with our customers in meaningful ways, we sometimes can get re-excited about our business, about our mission in our jobs, because we get reminded of the impact we're having on our customers' lives. We're getting reminded of these success stories and the testimonials or whatever it may be from our customers that make us feel good and kind of re-energize us and hopefully help us to double down, because we think, yeah, you know what, we kind of forgotten, but we're rocking it and we need to remember that. We need to celebrate this and take it to the next level.
Yeah, I want to go back to the suggestion box because there's a lot of discussion about this. And, you know, David says that what I love is some companies give the person who submitted the suggestion the opportunity to implement it. That's pretty cool, right? Whether it works or not. So
for sure.
By the way, I told you to write the 4 questions, and if anyone's Jewish, Carol said like Passover. Anyway, but here's one from Shelby. Anybody have suggestions for those folks who are in the mindset that if they speak up about problems or issues, they'll get in trouble or lose their job? Or is this we have talked about this in the past. It is a huge topic, but
it's a huge topic, and yeah, it's a huge topic, but it's relevant, I think, to everything we talk about. Again, it goes back to why a lot of people are quitting their jobs, is because they don't feel they have a voice. When I talk about employees not having a voice at work, it is the single biggest topic that I get the most comments on and feedback on, because it's an issue with everything. And yes, so it goes back to this, the importance of being intentional about creating psychological safety in our workplace, where we are open to questions and input and crazy ideas and challenging questions, doing things like one Canadian company does, where they have the Order of the Extended Neck, the Exalted Order of the Extended Neck Award, that frontline employees can nominate and vote who wins the award, because it goes to whoever speaks the most uncomfortable truths or most challenging questions to senior management.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm just looking at the chat box and what you're talking about. You know, that psychological safety zone. We did a show on that with Robert Grossman. So if anybody wants to go back, and it was an excellent show, if I do say so myself, but he was a great guest talking about psychological safety. And that reminds me, a plug, if I may, you know, you can go to our website, eowednesday.com, and just there's a link there to our YouTube channel, or just go to YouTube and put in Every Other Wednesday, and it's got every show categorized now. We kind of changed our website and everything else to make it easier to catalog. Anyway, all right, back to
it is though, right, Jeff? It's such a huge topic, but it is so important, and it's so important that you get it right. In my books, I don't know if you agree with this, Jeff, but when we talk about what motivates people at work, employees at work, in my books, there isn't anything that's much more powerful than listening to our employees and then having their ideas turned into action whenever it's possible. When you're an employee and you see that you can affect change in your workplace, that your ideas are taken seriously, and you've just impacted something in your organization, that's incredibly inspiring and powerful.
I agree. So let's go back to what Richard was talking about, and the topic for today, it was, you know, this stagnation. I think another thing I feel is that there's an organizational distraction. COVID's been a huge distraction. The last 2 years, I think people haven't seen their organization moving forward, just kind of maintaining or maintenance. And I think that's about to change, I hope, for a lot of organizations as we come through this. But we've seen that amazing capability or capacity for people to pull together in the last 2 years. And so how do we leverage that? I almost said use that, but how do we leverage that? Mike, would you say?
Well, I'm not sure if this is hitting on what you're getting at, Jeff, but I think one of the things I think we need to challenge ourselves to do is to not go back, and this is so cliche, but not go back to the old normal. Everybody's anxious to go back to the old normal. And I keep reminding folks, the old normal really sucked for a lot of people out there in society and in our workplaces. The old normal was not so hot, was not so great to begin with. Why would we aspire just to go back to the old normal? Let's use this as an opportunity. Let's use this whole kind of massive, to use one of Sanjay-ism, this massive snow day we've kind of had the last year and a half, to reset our workplaces, to reimagine a more inspiring, more exciting workplace than ever before. Why wouldn't we use it as an opportunity to really shake things up and do some really cool things? I mean, hopefully we've been reminded in the last year and a half of the importance of our physical and mental health, of the importance of being intentional about our cultures and leadership and compassion and empathy. So let's remember those positive lessons from the last 2 years and rebuild, reimagine a rocking workplace like we never have before. Otherwise, we're going to lose out on this opportunity that we've been given.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think that organizations are going through phases, not all at the same time. And then, of course, we have to think of the people in the organization as well. But it's those, we have to, I think, senior management has to identify where are we first. I think that it's altruistic sometimes, and they say, we're just, things haven't changed. We're going along as normal. And things have changed. And so it's identifying a whole new, I said it before, sorry, but a whole new focus.
Right. Yeah, and I think too, you reminded me earlier of the word complacency, right? Yeah. I think too, even if you feel like you're in a pretty good place in your workplace, one of the dangers we all know in any business, in any organization, is getting complacent. Is thinking that we've arrived, that we're okay. And one of my favorite stories along this line is when I was in Denmark, I was interviewing a whole bunch of different companies that just rock it with their culture. And one of them sat down with the CEO for hours, and he was telling me how he went to a senior leadership, how he totally transformed their culture from an already really, really great culture. They took it to an even higher level. He had a meeting with the senior leadership team, and his opening lines were, and he got inspired from a speaker he had actually seen the night before at an event. And his opening line was, "I'm really worried about our company." And the whole senior leadership team looked at him like he had lost his marbles, like he had 3 heads, because they all said, "What do you mean? We just had the best year ever. Like, our sales are through the roof. We're rocking it." And he said, "I know, but I get the sense we have become complacent, that we're too satisfied with our success, and that's the most dangerous place we could be. So let's get excited about shaking this place up and taking it to another level of success." Yeah. And they totally transformed what was already a really, really good culture.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to give Fred he's always got amazing contributions.
He does.
He uses a gardening analogy. You can't grow thriving crops in dead soil. You have to turn that soil periodically, or even find a different field to allow time for the original field to restore itself. I love that. What a great analogy. And as a former farmer,
Are you a former farmer?
And by the way, Frederick, we've invited you on the show and you still haven't answered. So we'd love to have you as a guest host sometime. He's been, I think, with us one of the longest.
I think some folks on our meeting today too probably have worked with the odd vegetable from time to time in their workplace. So I think it probably hits home more for some people than others.
Exactly. But his analogy of turning the soil is so, that's exactly what you're talking about. You got to stir things up when you become complacent.
Yeah. And keep it fresh. You got to, yeah. I mean, there's so many great analogies, right? You've got to keep watering the garden. You've got to keep fertilizing those seeds so they grow into something beautiful.
Yeah. I went out for lunch yesterday to a fast food place, and I'm walking through the line, and it's kind of they serve you. It's called Chipotle. Do you have them in Canada? I don't even know. But anyway, I was in a Chipotle, and I left there thinking, because I'm in the business of customer experience, that the customer service was fine, fine.
Just
but that was it.
Fine.
That's it. And so I think people need to look at their organization, look at your teams. Is what we're doing fine? Are we kind of coasting? Is it just okay?
Here's what fine is, Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Just meeting expectations.
Exactly.
We got to go back to that Chipotle because it was adequate.
Yeah. the food was good and the service was fine. You know, so
yeah. So all we're doing is staying out of customer service jail or customer service doghouse, right? When we're meeting expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that Richard sent us that we looked at before today's meeting is what can leaders do, right? I don't know if you were looking at that or if you'd seen it, but he talked about involving employees more in decision making, which I think we've kind of covered. But he said avoid what could be interpreted as in decision making, as trivial. So yes, don't make changes for the sake of making changes. Having a party or a celebration could be interpreted as trivial. And I know this is your area of expertise. So where is that line between rah, rah, let's have a, online party to something meaningful?
Yeah, well, I think that line is again, going back to the old cliche phrase, actions speak louder than words and talk is cheap, and making sure that you're not doing things that are just window dressing or Band-Aid solutions.
Yeah.
So it's okay sometimes to focus on the symptoms, but as much as possible, let's focus on the root problems, the source problems, the disease, if you will, in your workplace culture, and make sure you're building it from the ground up. So I'm still a huge fan of parties, of celebrations. You can have let's shake off our funk party to get us out of this malaise, a demalaising party to kind of shake out the cobwebs. But if it's the only thing you do, then yes, you're going to be in danger. And Lord knows we've all had workplace experiences where the senior leadership solution to the morale problem is to throw a summer barbecue and then check on the to-do list. Okay, that ought to hold them for the year, right? So it has to be more than that. So it's got to be part of a long-term plan. So when you talk about the fun aspect, Jeff, I'm a huge, and that is something that a lot of organizations I think do need to step up if they are suffering from malaise, is especially if they're still working in a hybrid or remote situation, employees are missing out on the social aspect. They're missing out on some of that fun aspect. So building that in intentionally, making time for that, treating it as a priority because it is important, but making sure it's not a one-off. So building it into the very fabric of your culture, creating rituals and traditions that you carry on. That is so important. And I know a lot of folks on the call know that I'm a huge fan of rituals and traditions. And they're so important, but you got to keep doing them. A weekly tradition, even a small tradition that might be a daily tradition.
I look forward to your whatever of the day. This is so-and-so week or so-and-so day, right? Would you say sandwich day?
It's sandwich day. It's cliche day to celebrate cliches that drive us nuts. It's SOS day. It's International Stress Awareness Day. Yeah.
I love it. I want to get back to the chat. We've had great interaction today. Corinne, and I'm curious if anybody else has done this. Corinne says there's no budget to use for employee engagement, so she's literally used her own money to buy things. And I would venture to guess, Corinne, that you've got a lot of company. Just put in the chat box if anybody else has ever done that, yes or no. I think that a lot of people have done that. So I've done it for my company, and I'm the only person. So. But Lisa, I wanted to answer your question. Will I go back to Chipotle? Sure. It was good food and the service was meh.
Exactly. Hey, there's a Chipotle restaurant. They have a sign. I'm pretty sure it's a Chipotle. They have a sign reserved for people who like cilantro.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be me. So
that wouldn't you? Oh, I love. Oh, God, I'm a huge cilantro-ite.
No. So kind of time to wrap up already. I can't believe it, but
what?
But I want to talk about one more thing, and I'm not going to define it like I think of it. I will, but I want to throw it out at you, Mike. And that is, I think one of the solutions to all of this is that we have to institute stickiness. Without me saying what I think that is, how do you define that?
Are you asking the chat box? I think we should ask the chat box people, the people of the chat box.
Yeah. Mike, is that David Hasselhoff?
David Hasselhoff? No, it's David Hasselhoff.
It's Elvis. It's Elvis, right?
David Hasselhoff.
How would you define stickiness where you work? That'll be our final question today. How do you define stickiness? Implementing change that sticks and it takes hold and that people want. Okay? Thanks, April.
Awesome answer, April. I love April's answer.
Engagement is stickiness. Yeah. I think it's also that the business itself becomes indispensable, you know?
Commitment, chocolate on my fingers.
Yeah. Commitment to stick with it.
Having a difficult conversation with a coworker, commitment to stick to it. Hard to stop. Yeah. Oh, I like that, David Guthrie. Yeah, hard to stop. It's so inspiring. It's so motivating. It's working towards a really cool vision that you don't want to stop. You're excited to get up every day and work towards this.
Momentum too. I like that. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that it's sustainable. Thanks, Jamie.
Momentum.
I think that stickiness is what we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes. I think it really is about finding those things that stick. Mike, I know you said this already. You were talking about, you know, developing new traditions, new customs, and sticking with them. So Melissa's just trying to implement new tools and finding a way to get everyone excited about it and use it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's time to wrap up. First of all, I want to thank everybody for today. I'm sorry that we lost them, the Culture Club. They were dropping off like flies today, but but it was a lot of fun. Mike, when's the next Culture Club?
We're having another one?
Next time we get together.
How often do these happen, Jeff?
I believe it's every other...
Is it every other Tuesday?
Right.
Wednesday. I believe it's every other Wednesday. That would be Wednesday, November 17th, which I believe, if I might be not having this right, but I think that's close to Married to a Scorpion Support Day. Maybe we should talk about that. I'm a Scorpion, so, you know, my wife needs support. I thought you meant
literally a Scorpion. You're married to a Scorpion. I didn't understand. Okay.
Yes. No, it's for my wife because she needs support because she's married to a Scorpion. So next Wednesday, November 17th, we're going to have back a guest that we had. Boy, when did we have?
Oh, are you announcing that now? Have you even got a confirmation?
I do have confirmation from Lori. We're going to have Lori Bauer back with us again. She was here last. Time has no meaning anymore, I've found. I don't even know what year it is. Evidently, it's 2021, looking at my calendar. Lori Bauer is going to come back because she is prolific in terms of what she produces, writes about in terms of this whole transition of going back to work and dealing with insurance and the vaccine issues and the hybrid workplaces and culture and all that stuff. So we're going to have her back. I think it'll be I know it'll be a really good discussion. She is a fountain of knowledge and inspiration, and she has so much insights into what's happening out there in the work world in terms of this big sort of shift that everybody I know is at different stages there, but I think there'll be lots of great ideas. So bring your questions, bring your challenges.
And by the way, Ethel and Rhonda, we really want you to come back, even though you said November 18th. It is the 17th. So
it is the 17th, yes.
We would love to see you there. Thank you, everybody. Have a great...
the November 18th is, I think she means Married to a Scorpio Support Day.
Oh, yes. I see. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Suggestion for future EO session. How your culture is defined by how you react, respond, and share feedback, good and bad. Thank you, Linda. I like that. We'll take it.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and on that note, please send us your suggestions for topics.
Yes.
For topics, even if they're specific topics, whatever's top of mind for you, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, everyone. Jeff. Good to see you all. Thank you, everyone. Happy Sandwich Day.
I'm going to have one.